Hi everyone, this is OCD Recovery Program. I'm GREYMOND. We're going to be answering questions about OCD that you left under these my videos, the previous weeks. And the first question is, hi Ali, I try to push through with the most, but the hardest thing for me is germs. For example, someone at the store will cough near me and I'll worry that I'm covered in germs and spreading them as I visit a relative in the hospital or something. I deal with driving OCD and a few other categories, but this one is the one that takes the biggest toll and is the most difficult, possibly because germs and spreading them, getting people sick in a real thing everyone, even without people without OCD, worry about. I feel as though pushing through and disregarding will make me a horrible person as I am covered in germs but still shaking people's hands. Okay, so with that, again, it's everybody is to an extent, especially in the flu season, worried about germs. That's a given. But the level of sanitization that you're doing, the level of compulsions that you're doing is not the same level as everybody else. So you have to scale back to get to the same level as what people around you are doing. And then when your mind tells you, well, you're a bad person for not paying more attention to it, for not disinfecting more, for not washing more, then you're saying, I'm doing what everybody else is doing. I'm not getting into compulsions with this. I'm choosing not to. So you're making a choice. And if your mind tells you you're a bad person for making a choice, you're not getting into an argument with it further. You're saying, that's it. This is my OCD. I'm not dealing with this, So you're taking control, you're taking the power back rather than listening to your mind as if it's a real person, right? We're just viewing it as a printer. Your printer's printed something, big deal, you're not paying attention. Everybody else is shaking hands just fine, so you can do it the same way. You don't need to do anything special. And just pushing through. You will see it will get easier, but with this kind of stuff, you have to do exposures, as with the driving and all the other stuff. So with the driving, for example, is what if you're having thoughts like, what if I hit somebody? Then again, not going back and not checking, not analyzing, not doing any of those things, because that's really what gets you stuck. Your mind doesn't care what topic of OCD you have. Any OCD topic it will attach to, as long as you're allowing it attached to it. As long as you're allowing the fear to grow, by paying attention, making it relevant to your life, it will grow. So it's just choosing not to make a difference. So the next question is about religious OCD. As my OCD thoughts come into my mind, I keep thinking, what about if this one was really unforgivable and I did it on purpose and it's hard to let go? I can hear your voice saying that, like my voice, the person means, this is all OCD and it wants you to get stuck on this thought, and then I need to push through. There's nothing more central to me than my religion, and I know that I am getting, that's why I'm getting this OCD. Mine is swearing and God's so blasphemous thoughts. I sometimes feel I do them on purpose and I get scared that I am unforgivable. So again, all of these things are extremely common. This is religious OCD classic. It's the problem here is your reaction. The more you're reacting with fear, so the more you're changing even your habits. So you're not praying or you're re-praying. All these things continue to keep OCD going. So we're not re-praying. We're not doing anything different. We're just pushing through. So you're getting a thought, did I do it on purpose? Did I do it by accident? You're not solving, you're just keeping going with it, And then you're getting another thought, again, keeping going, pushing forward, No matter what OCD tells you, you just continue to push forward. You will see it will start to get better the more you do it, but it's just choosing to do it, choosing to do different, and you will see that the reaction will start to change. The fears will not be as hard, but with religious OCD, there's always a lot of avoiding as well. I have a lot of clients with religious OCD, so I know it pretty well, let's say. And it's a lot of the times people will avoid praying or avoid certain things. Sometimes also religious OCD can attach to magical thinking where, certain numbers are bad, certain numbers are good, certain colors are bad, certain places, situations, people are bad. So again, not allowing any of that to grow as well, because all of it is kind of a part of the one thing anyway. But what if I'm a bad person? And then you're not solving that what if, you're doing everything as you would do if you didn't have this problem. So you're not allowing the situation to change. Next question is, ma'am, I sent you an email 2 days ago and didn't get a reply yet. Please reply. Okay, so I'm not too sure. In terms of emails, I am still way behind on emails. The fastest way to get to me is if you would like to answer a question that about OCD. If you just have a question, please leave it below these videos. If you would like for me to answer a question in private, there's a recovery program for that, and you can sign up on youhaveocd.com. Next question is, Ali, thank you so much. You're a blessed person. You helped so many people. You're very welcome. I will continue to do this, and I always say that I'm kind of motivated by anger, because honestly, it angers me that so many people are suffering with these thoughts, and there's not a lot of help out there. Do you know what I mean? Every doctor should be trained in this. Every psychologist should be trained in this. But the actual help that the psychologists provide it's minimal, And I look at how much work I do with my clients in the recovery program, and we're in constant communication, and, it's miles away from seeing a doctor once a week and having no communication, and that's it, it's a different world entirely. So it's, for OCD to help somebody recover from OCD, you need to be guided, especially in the beginning when the anxiety is 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. You need to, either that person has to be severely motivated, right? Maybe it's not the right term, but extremely motivated, and will do it on their own. But most people are not, to be honest, not that motivated, right? And they need help, and maybe they have questions, and the specifics, just like we were talking about religious OCD, right? Where, yes, generally you're disregarding, but there's so much intricacy in how you're disregarding. And when I'm praying, there's a lot of things technical aspects, technical details that come up for each specific type of OCD. And I don't know how, without having that knowledge and that experience, a doctor can help. So whatever I can do to help, I will do, because it's ridiculous. OCD it's so, and again, it comes from the fact that I've experienced it myself, It's so painful, and it doesn't only hurt that specific person who's suffering from OCD. It hurts everybody around them. So if they have families, it impacts everybody, So it's just very important to recover. It's I don't know. It's just, for having experienced it, and I guess it's kind of, unless you actually get a problem, you don't really understand how little the doctors potentially can help you until you start digging into it and you're asking for help, and then you're like, oh, unless, and again, some people say, well, there are OCD specialists that are good. Of course there are OCD specialists that are good, but they're, maybe one per, a very large geographic area, let's put it that way, and most of them are pretty much on YouTube, or writing books or known, because it's your everyday local psychologist or psychiatrist doesn't have that much experience in OCD, specifically if we even take like the last question, like religious OCD specifically, it's just, it's kind of like, you need to do, we all need, and that's what I say too, right? We all need to do what we can to help everybody else recover. So as you are recovering, and when you recover, I hope you consider helping other people recover as well, because it's kind of all hands on deck. There's help needed in this area. Next question is, how can I stop analyzing and attaching meaning to my anxiety? I try to understand why I'm having palpitations, and in doing so, I bring them on. But it's like in my brain, I think I'll calm myself down if I get to the bottom of it. And okay, so with that, you've tried to get to the bottom of it. It's not working. So to get a different result, let's try to do something different. Let's step over the anxiety, and again, if you're having physical symptoms that go along with OCD, that's not uncommon. That's, fairly standard. Not everybody has physical symptoms. Some people do, some people don't. But the more meaning it's exactly what you said, the more meaning you attach to it, the worse they're going to get, and the more in fear you're going to be even before you get them that they're coming. It's going to happen again to me, right? So it's taking that, putting it aside, and choosing not to allow it into your conscious mind. Somewhere in the back of your mind, there's fear, there's anxiety, but you're not activating it in your conscious mind. You're not choosing to pay attention to it. The more you choose not to pay attention to it, the better about it you will feel. So, and somebody replied to slowly and slowly reduce the frequency of doing it. So, and that's true, you know, across all of the compulsions, right? That slowly reducing the amount of compulsions, and slowly means different things to anybody. I would love for you to just reduce all of them, right? But whatever you can handle. And some days, you know, clients tell me, you know what, I can push a little further today. Let's do something else. And then some days they're like, bare minimum, I'm not doing anything else, don't even ask, you know, and it depends, right? So but every day you need to push yourself, and then from that push, you know, you'll see kind of where you'll end up. You know, some days it will work better, some days it will not work so well, but you made the choice, you push through. So next question is, my OCD is about checking. I check the door of the if the flat is locked, if the tap in the shower is well closed, if the stove is not on. But as a student, my OCD issue, which bothers me the most, is the fear of making a mistake. For example, when I have to read an important document, I feel I need to read it over and over to make sure that I understood it well. I struggle a lot when I have to take an exam because I waste my time to read and reread the same sentence just to make sure that I read it well and understood it well. Okay, and again, fear of the exams, and it's a responsibility OCD. So you're worried, what if something happens to my house, or what if the document is wrong? It's kind of the same idea with both of those things. You feel responsible. So it's seeing the common thread, anything to do with responsibility, over-the-top anxiety you're not paying attention to. So checking the door once, fine. Checking the door twice, 3 times, 4 times, not fine. Checking the document over once or exam once, fine. Checking 3 or 4 times, not fine. And just going with that, because you're trying right now to mimic everybody else's standard average behavior. The more you do that, the more you will see that that's how everybody else does it, doesn't matter, and then you keep going. Next question is, this is Christy. Okay, also Ali, this past week I was so stressed out. I had a situation that was so bad, and I was doing major compulsions to deal with it all day, for days, and was making myself and my mother crazy about this one stupid thing. I think I've done maybe 1 compulsion regarding this thing since talking to you. Thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. And this is one of my clients, and you just pushing through. That's all you need to do is just push through. You're doing great. It just, more and more continuing to, right now you're on the right track. So more of the same thing. We'll talk about it more in the next session. But it's fantastic. It's fantastic, And, I can tell pretty much right away, pretty much in the first session, if the person is going to recover or not. Ever if they're going to recover, but in the near future if they're going to recover, because everybody can change how they're doing things and stuff like that. But if the person is willing to fight, if the person is focused, how can they possibly not recover? If they're going and every day is better than the previous day, and I mean there's going to be setbacks from time to time, but generally if we say even every week, this week is better than next week, or yeah, you understand what I'm saying, right? It's just pushing through, you're doing really, really good. You should be really proud of yourself. It's great. Next question is, please could you talk about when OCD affects relationships? I don't mean doubting whether your relationship is right, But when the subject of your obsession is your partner, I have the most amazing husband who has been by my side for over 35 years. For a while, he answered my questions, but we all know reassurance doesn't work, and it would just lead to more. I find it incredibly difficult to just disregard the thoughts, as they are always about him and so very emotionally difficult for me to ignore. It feels like a roller coaster. He's very supportive of me and has never done anything at all to justify me feeling this way. Is this a common theme? Yes, it's a common relationship OCD. And again, it's the questions, it's the checking, and it's the analyzing in your mind, right? You yourself trying to find reassurance by just going over a certain situation, or even whatever it is that you're doing, whatever the situation may be, right? So you kind of have to make a pact with him, which in these situations works very well, where you say, okay, don't give me any reassurance, and I am making a choice not to ask you for any reassurance. So when you have a weak moment and you ask him, he'll put you back on track of, okay, remember what we talked about, so like that, right? So you're both committed to recovery, and not going from thought to thought, kind of like a roller coaster. The reason you feel like you're on a roller coaster is because you're continuously taking the thoughts seriously and then disregarding, rather than just disregarding, choosing to disregard right away. And then what if you're getting a thought that, what if it's real, or what if whatever you fear comes true? Well, when it comes true, then I'm sure you will deal with it. But until it comes true, we're not allowing ourselves to deal with every thought that comes into our mind. It's just choosing not to and pushing through from there. And yeah, it's a very common relationship OCD theme. The next question is, hi Ali, I don't hear you talk about physical compulsions very much. While I do experience pure obsessional type of OCD, I also suffer from physical compulsions. I do things in 16ths and sometimes get stuck doing sets in 16ths until it feels right. This could be setting a glass down, hitting a light switch, turning TV channels back and forth. Do you consider compulsion type OCD easier to battle, harder, or the same? And what might be some tips for someone suffering from both at the same time? I ask because they're both coming at me constantly, and it's hard to get ahead on either. I am strongly considering reaching out to you for the recovery program. Okay, so with that, first of all, I find that physical compulsions is a more straightforward recovery, and there's a lot of information already out there on it, because doctors are, well, not all the doctors, but a lot of them are, some of them, okay, let's say, there's a few, let's say, are more able to understand physical compulsions. And the Puerile is where, and to be honest, most of my clients are, not most, I guess it varies month to month, but have the Puerile type of OCD. In terms of doing this magical number type of OCD, where you're doing things in a certain amount of numbers, or avoiding numbers or something like that, it's a pretty common OCD. I've had clients who had the same thing. If you would like to do the recovery program, we can of course do it. In terms of finding it harder, I find it easier. I find helping people recover from physical compulsions easier and faster than Puerile. And the reason being is that with physical compulsions, so say for example, you had a thought, okay, I have to set, like what you were saying, I had to set my glass down, but I have to do it 16 times, right? So while you are doing it 16 times, there's time that's passing. And it's much longer period. It's still very quick, but it's much longer period of time comparing to stopping a thought, as is the case in Puerile. So because of that, Puerile is harder to catch, because as soon as the thought comes in, you have to react the right way. The thought itself is the exposure. Here, you have an actual physical situation. So there's more time for the person to get it together and react correctly. That's really the only difference. But with this magical number stuff, because it's still a lot of it is happening in your mind, it is physical compulsions, but there's a big, not puerile, but big obsessional aspect to it, right, as well. So, you know, I mean, it's just, you have to choose to do different to get a different result. You have to refuse. You know, the more you refuse, the better. What you can do right now is pick a situation that's maybe not as scary to you, that you still do in, you know, the number in 16s, right? And try to do it in a different number, right? Like, so say, like, I'm not sure kind of what your nature of OCD is. Is it 16s or nothing, or you can do 15 and it won't be as much? So it depends kind of how you're thinking about it, but take at least one step, even if it's the tiniest step forward on anything, and that will give you some momentum to take the next step and the next step. And it's pretty straightforward with physical compulsions, but like I said, my door is always open if you would like additional help, but start reducing them now. You know, if you're waiting to do the program, start reducing them today. Don't put it off till tomorrow, the next day, I'll start on Monday. Do it now. You know, so next time you get this thought, trying to do less and less and less and pushing through that way. Next question is, hi Ali, I've been suffering for just over 2 years now, and I'm in the beginning of my recovery. My thoughts are of the metaphysical kind. In these 2 years, whenever I get interrupted by the thoughts, I'll go back into my mind and to what I was thinking about, and would try to think about it in the right way, just to prove myself that I'm safe. Now I've learned not to react and not to argue with this. When I try to continue an interrupted normal thought, then again, it feels like I'm trying to continue it in the right way. It's hard to pick up where I left. It doesn't feel the same before and after the interruption. Should I just stop trying to continue interrupted thoughts and let the anxiety freeze pass? Exactly. Don't do any of it. All of it is part of OCD. Don't do any of it. Whatever your mind says, whatever your mind does, let it do it, let it say it, but don't give it energy. Just let it be there. You know, put it aside, let it be there. The more you let it be, the better you're going to start to feel, you know? Next question is it possible to still have OCD even if it's a theme that's way different than anyone else's? I mean, I think a lot of the times people come to me and they're like, my theme is so different, and then when we start digging into it, it's not different at all. So it's, yeah, of course it's possible. You know, it's just what triggers you specifically. So if something very particular triggers you that wouldn't trigger other people, then OCD will just grab onto it, you know? So it really doesn't matter. The level of anxiety and the repeated behavior is the problem here, not the actual nature of the thought. Next question is, hi, I've been getting better and better with the help of your videos, but I'm still not feeling like myself. I'm about a week in and I have a lot of moments of clarity, but some moments the thoughts come over and over, and I just keep repeating these thoughts aren't valid, but will I feel like I do pre-episode once I get past it? Yeah, it just takes time, you know. You can't expect it to work instantly. You know, you've been repeating, and I don't know your specific situation, right? But you've been repeating the wrong things to your mind over and over again. And to undo it, it takes time. It's not instant. So it's fine that the more moments of clarity you're seeing, that's progress. So your moments of clarity will start to be for longer and longer. So and then you'll kind of start to forget that you have OCD altogether, and just fades away after a while. That's really how the recovery process goes. So the more you do it, the better you're going to feel, and then it kind of goes away. But you got to allow yourself to give yourself a little bit more time. Next question is, what happens if you live alone and have intrusive thoughts? You have to make sure that you are giving yourself things to do, so you are not because when you're by yourself, right, you can easily get stuck in doing compulsions or mental ruminations. So being more focused on where you are mentally. Are you paying attention mentally or not? And if you are paying attention, switching it. As soon as you realize you're paying attention, you have to switch it. And just doing the best you can. That's all you can do. Every day doing the best you can. But if you feel like you're not making any progress, then you have to push forward to do better. Because then, you know, if you're trying to do the best you can, but you're doing a lot of compulsions, that you need to try more in order to see faster progress. Because who wants to suffer with this more, right? Why would you suffer longer when you don't have to? Next question is, actually, I don't know if I have time for next. Okay, I have one time. I have harm OCD. I know part of the recovery is not to worry or get anxious about the thought and treat it as if you're bothered by it. But I worry if I just ignore the thought, my mind will think it's okay to act on these thoughts. I don't want to hurt anyone. Will my mind think it's okay to do these things? And will I have a compulsion to act out these thoughts? Okay, you're just analyzing. This is just analyzing and reassurance. Harm thoughts are OCD. Anything that comes into your mind that has to do with harm thoughts is OCD. You're not analyzing, you're not paying attention, you're not checking. Harm equals OCD. You're choosing to move on. That's it. When the cops come to your door and say, did you kill somebody? Then we will deal with it. You'll be the first one, but we will deal with it. In 8 years, so far, nobody has killed anybody under my supervision. So I don't think you're going to be the first that we hear of that does this, right? It's just OCD trying to play tricks. Don't let it get to you. Don't allow it to take over. Let it be over here. You're living here. It's telling you, it's giving you anxiety, doesn't matter. It stays over here, it's fine. It's just a harm OCD thought. That's all it is. But you have to push through to feel better. So, and the last question is, I have 1 more minute. I'm finding it incredibly difficult to resist not reacting to the thoughts. Every time I try to implement your program, my OCD intensifies 100%. How long do I need to suffer with extreme anxiety of not doing compulsions or reassurance to start thinking clearly again? So when it intensifies by 100, you have to make sure you're still refusing, because if it intensifies and then you give into it, then you're showing your mind fear. So you have to be very focused on not showing fear. If you're not showing fear, it won't last that long. But through that first period of intense resistance from your mind, everybody goes through this, because your mind is used to you reacting. All of a sudden you stopped reacting. It doesn't like it. It will try everything it can to get you back into fear. You know, so you have to be strong and resist, but analyze where you are in recovery in terms of how much in the course of the day are you coming from a position of power versus fear. And you have to make sure that it's power, 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 because any fear right now slows down this process and makes the recovery process longer. You know, so it will make the whole suffering even longer. So, you know, just really being focused on where your mind is all the time and how you are reacting to this pummeling of thoughts. That's all the questions I have for today. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you would like to do the recovery program, it's available on youhaveocd.com and you can sign up from there. If you'd like for me to answer a question on the next show, please leave it below any of the videos. Thank you again for watching and for supporting this channel. I will see you in the next video.